Council and the Glendale Housing Authority. I'll call to order the November 15, 2011 meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Housing Authority. Can we have a roll call for council, please?
Council members Manukian.
Here.
Najarian. Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Friedman.
Here.
Roll call for the Housing Authority.
Authority members Friedman.
Here.
Manukian.
Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Najarian. Grazian.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chair Quintero.
Here.
May I hear your report, please?
Agenda for November 15, 2011 joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, November 10, 2011 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Before you is a joint public meeting, Director of Community Services and Parks regarding status of program planning for the fiscal year 2012-2013 CDBG ESG and Home Annual Action Plan. 1A is council motion approving fiscal year 2012-2013 CDBG program priorities, fiscal year 2012-2013 proposed CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category, and issuance of an RFP to the community and city departments for social services, service and capital improvements project. B is a authority motion approving the fiscal year 2012-13 CDBG program priorities, fiscal year 2012-13 proposed CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category, and issuance of an RFP to the community and city departments for social service and capital improvements projects.
Thank you. Mr. Duran.
Yes, Mayor Friedman, members of the City Council, Chairman Quintero, members of the Housing Authority. What we are presenting today is the status of program planning for the fiscal year 2012-2013 CDBG annual plan. This will mark 36 years that the city has been receiving CDBG funds. The CDBG program planning process is cyclical, and there are specific HUD guidelines that we have to follow. We are at the juncture in the planning process where we have completed our annual needs assessment. We have determined program priorities. We have developed a funding allocation plan by funding category based on our best estimate of the HUD budget, which is changing daily, but as of now we are projecting an approximate 10% reduction from last year's HUD allocation, which translates to a $300,000 decrease in the fiscal year 12-13 HUD entitlement. Last year, if you recall, we received a 17% decrease in our CDBG funding. And subject to the Council and the Authority's approval today, we are ready to issue an RFP, a request for proposal, to the community and to the city departments. We have met with the CDBG Advisory Committee, and they have reviewed and approved the program priorities and the proposed funding allocation plan. The current chair, as a reminder, of the Advisory Committee is Ramela Markarian, and we have one or two advisory committees here today. At this point, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Moises Carrillo, who will present a more detailed report on the program planning process. Oh, there is one more thing. The Advisory Committee has also just completed its site visits. Every year they do visit all of the programs that were funded to get to become more knowledgeable of exactly how the programs operate, and they're able to see the programs in action. And so that was about 3 or 4 days of site visits that were just completed.
The application deadline hasn't started yet for some of these programs?
That's correct. We will be, on Thursday, we will be making an announcement in the newspaper and an email blast, letting all the community agencies know that we are now out to a bid for proposals, and they'll have 30 days to submit their applications.
And where would they go to pick up the applications? Will it be available on the website?
Yes, they can download it online. That's the best way.
And where is it under the housing department on the website?
Community Services and Parks.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Friedman, Chair Quintero, members of the City Council and Housing Authority. Moises Carrillo, Community Services and Parks. I'll just correct just a little bit. The budget's changing minute by minute, hour by hour, so I actually have some updated news. But I'm just going to present something very quick to give you some details on the planning process for the CDBG home and the ESG programs, and mainly the CDBG, since it's the largest program and the one that has the most impact as far as our agencies go. Can we move up, Artie? Oh. Just to give you an idea, the purpose of this meeting and the report is to give you the funding priorities that the committee and staff have developed for the fiscal year 2012 and 2013 CDBG program, and also the fiscal year 2012-13 CDBG funding allocations by funding category. What I mean by that is the capital improvement projects, the social service programs, and the administration. We are, again, as Jess mentioned, prepared to issue an RFP to the agencies and city departments for social services and also the CIP beginning Friday. We have sent out emails to the agencies and departments letting them know about the proposed dates of the RFP and all the technical assistance meetings, so they have been aware, and I know a lot of them here today as well. Oops. As Jess mentioned, we actually were proposing to, well, we were estimating that the CDBG entitlement would be $2.6 million. That was a 10% decrease from the previous year, and before that it was a 17% decrease from 2009. We're actually now looking at a 14 to 15% cut. Just recently, the Congress and House Senate Conference Committee just passed a motion to approve some cuts to the CDBG as well as all the HUD programs. So this will need to be revised. But generally, we do have some funds for the fiscal year 12-13 for $2.6 million and $98,000 in reprogram funds, and those are generally projects that have been closed out that have remaining funds in their accounts. We also received some program income from a property sale from New Horizons. So all in all, it's about $2.8 million program this year. The homeless program, which is under the ESG, is not slated to be cut. It's about $143,000 this year. We may anticipate some additional funding from HUD for homeless programs for ESG, but right now we're estimating about $143,000. The home program is another program that is proposed to be cut. Staff was estimating about a 30% cut from previous year's funding. Now we're looking actually at a 38% cut, so it will go down significantly more from the current budget. So there is some impacts from the federal budget that are going to have impacts here in Glendale. Just again, generally to go over the objectives of the program. Generally, CDBG is to eliminate any conditions of slums and blight and provide benefits to low, moderate income persons, including the homeless. I know there's CDBG advisory committee members here. Generally, we do have a committee that provides a lot of input, a lot of oversight, a lot of review and meetings to guide the CDBG program through its year-long process, and starts with the needs assessment and includes the site visits with all the agencies, which we just finished last week. They do evaluate the funding proposals. They interview the community agencies and city departments for funding. They review any revisions or any program amendments that we have for the agencies or departments throughout the program year. And they also make their, again, review and reprogramming of any additional funds we might have. In case, for example, of the ARA funds, they were making the recommendations for some of the projects. The needs assessment process is something we generally do every year. 2 years ago, we did do a more significant needs assessment for the 5-year plan. That included a lot of surveys, a lot of meetings for our 5-year plan, with about 1,300 persons participating a couple years ago. The new plan for 12-13 is generally taken from that 5-year plan, and the needs assessment includes meetings with residents, public hearings, interactive written survey, and again, general comments from the community. And we had about 231 residents participate directly with our department in some of those meetings. The priorities that we've developed and have adopted with the committee are essentially consistent with the 5-year plan and have not drastically changed from one year to the other. The proposed preliminary funding plan does call for CDBG funds in the amount of $2.8 million. Broken down, that's 20% allowable for administration, social services, $408,000. That's a $38,000 reduction from last year, and I would project with the newer cuts that it may go down even more. Capital improvements, $1.8 million. That's a $430,000 decrease from the previous year. We do have pre-designated projects that are designated for some city improvements, and that's about $1.6 million in total. And that leaves us for about $210,000 available for the community for a RFP for. Those are capital improvement projects for the community. Pre-designated projects are the city projects that the council in the past has made reference to priorities and historically have been expressed through the meetings that parks and code enforcement and other general revitalization improvements generally are priorities. Code enforcement is at 420 Palmer Park, which is our newest plan for improvements to park facilities, is planned for improvements and receiving CDBG funds. In the park arena, we did decrease the amount about $230,000 in the previous year, so we are reducing some of our city projects by the overall reduction in funding. Pacific Park Community Center, that is a 108 loan. That's a HUD loan that we've had for 9 years now. This is the last year of that loan, so that will free up to $248,000 for 13-14 for other projects that are eligible for CDBG funds, but this is our last year. Our newest loan is for the Hope and Compassion Center. That's the, I was going to say Pafachi, but Estivia, I believe, Ascensia project, emergency shelter and access center that is being developed by Ascensia. Total being $1.6 million in capital pre-designated projects.
We have a commitment for that project?
Yes, we do have a, Councilman Manukia, we do have a signed contract with PAF and Ascensia and SHO for the Compassion Center project. That's currently being developed.
And all the funds are required to be paid out of CDBG? Is that?
Yes, well, there is a matching fund provided by the Hope and Compassion Center. This was done about a year ago, and we did receive our Section 108 loan funds already, so it's paid out of the block grant program each year.
So the payments are out of CDBG, are supposed to be out of CDBG?
Yes, correct.
Supposed to be paid out of CDBG?
They come directly out of CDBG.
That's how it was approved a year ago?
Yes, it was approved. Just to give a quick review of how the evaluation process is, and this is certainly that the committee does historically a review process in February and actually beginning December all the way to January is a review of about 30 CDBG funding proposals, and 25 from social services, about 5 from capital improvement projects for, again, the nonprofit agencies. We do conduct 2 technical assistance workshops during December, and once proposals are received, we prepare an analysis of the proposal, including their strengths and weaknesses and any discrepancies. They have committees, the agency, the departments have about a week to submit any corrections to the responses. Any of those responses are attached to the proposals. These proposals are forwarded to the CDBG Advisory Committee with all the comments, all the responses, all the analysis, and they have about 2 or 3 weeks time to review the proposals and make their comments. And then there is an interview process with the agencies and departments to hear their proposals, and then we deliberate. As I say, the committee deliberates and develops their funding recommendations, which are presented to the City Council in April. Some of the criteria that the committee reviews is certainly the overall quality of the proposal, but also whether the project meets a program priority that's been identified and its ability to substantiate the community need for that project. Coordination and collaboration with other agencies and programs is certainly important, and also the program goals and outcomes of the activity. The feasibility of the program, of the proposed implementation plan is important, especially those capital projects. We want to start seeing a very detailed analysis of the timelines for the projects so we can see how far out they are from being completed. The budget and cost effectiveness, of course, is important to note that certainly if there's leveraging and there's funds available for that project to make it effective. The experience and the capacity of the organization is also very important. And the overall financial health and capacity of the organization is, I don't want to say it's a newer component because we've had that, but I think it's been strengthened this year with review of their financial statements, of the pre-submission, pre-requirements to submit their financial statements, their audits to us and have us review those as after they apply for their funding. Some of that has happened in the past. We're taking a bit more detailed review of the financial statements and the financial status of the organization. So that's a very quick rundown of the funding for the CDBG program. Unfortunately, again, we do see a cut in the CDBG funds. We'll know more later this month as far as the exact percentage of the cut or exact amount will be given to us in about 60 days from today. But there is a conference committee today that met and made these recommendations just this morning. So we're still waiting to get more information from our HUD office. But so if they'll answer any questions, or if Jess needs to come up here. And
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
No, just in terms of a little disappointment, actually, that the capital improvement program, there's really virtually no funds available to the community. And the funds have been encumbered early on with some of the loans, $500,000 of loan paybacks, I guess, for. And how much is the Palmer project, Palmer Park project? What is the overall funding for that we're allocating? $750,000.
$756. We're, Councilman Manukian, we're actually applying for a grant from the state to, just as we did for Maryland Mini Park and some of the other parks, to receive funds for Palmer Park. We won't know anything until later this year whether we receive those funds or not. That was kind of our matching funds. It's very tight at the state level as well, so we certainly want to have funds available for Palmer Park, even if it's a phased improvement project for next year. But that's the money we have available now.
How much funds were available for community projects last year?
I believe $300,000 were available for community projects.
Okay. And the Palmer Park project, I certainly support. I know that staff has had many meetings with community members over there, and we designed the park from the input that you received from the community, and so I do support it. I just maybe it's been a while and I haven't thought about some of these funds.
Well, the shame of it is that we've had a 27% reduction in the past 2 years.
Yes.
Funding from the federal government,
Yes.
and that's going to continue. When I was in Washington, I heard much more draconian cuts are on the way, 35%, 40%.
Same funds?
Into the CDBG. So clearly, there's not a lot of interest in preserving funds that are used for community safeguards, for reducing blight, for helping the neediest citizens of the country, which is what these funds do.
How much is for social services again? How much is the funding
Go back.
allocation?
It's $408,000.
$408,000.
Yes. It's about a $68,000 cut there. Or $38,000, I'm sorry, $38,000. So that's generally a couple of projects.
And the administration fee of 20%, is that?
That's been reduced too from last year, percent-wise, yes. But
Is it 20% of the?
of the
2.8?
No, actually, of the 2 point, well, let me go back here. Of the 2.6 million.
2.6?
Then if I'm correct,
Is that
That one.
is that the total that is allowed by HUD?
Yeah.
Have we ever taken less for administration?
No, we spent
Because
less.
that does
but
not
that's-
include code enforcement or anything, that just
does not.
administration.
and that'll take a reduction of about 30,000 or so as a result of the new budget numbers. So if the hit on CDBG is spread equally among all the programs except Section 208, that number will go down by another $30,000.
So for staff and staffing expenses, we have code enforcement and the administration, which is about $940,000 out of the 2.8.
Jess, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Chairman Quintero, I just want to clarify the proposed allocation for management and oversight or administration represents a $60,000 decrease from last year. And it also includes administration of the $2.5 million ESG program. So we have to use HUD administration to also administer the homeless programs. So when you combine those, it's a much smaller percentage. And the other challenge is, while we are capped by the federal budget and our PERS costs and other costs go up, just to keep the same level of staffing and service level to the agencies, it's a challenge because HUD won't increase our budget as our staff costs increase, and we just have to make other adjustments to deal with it. So it is a challenge, even at 20%. And the other challenge is, because we have a balanced, varied program, and because we do the RFP and we're committed to work with a number of agencies, for the agencies to provide the needed services in our community, we will fund about 20 projects a year. And those projects and those contracts and those agencies need technical assistance. We have to be processing invoices and doing monitoring and executing contracts. Had we, as other cities do, if we had a much smaller program, say, for example, we used all of our social service funds to fund 3 or 4 main projects with only a couple of nonprofit organizations, we could get by with a need for fewer staff under management and oversight.
You said that funding is used for the CDBG as well as the ESG for $2.5 million, you said?
SHP.
SHP?
Yes, the homeless
What program is that? It's not in here, is it?
No, it's not here.
Why are we using these funds for another program to administer other programs? Don't we have funding separately for those programs?
Yes, it's a separate entitlement. It's a $2.5 million entitlement, which you approved a couple of months ago. And that program only allows 5% for administration. So we have to leverage the administration of that program with the CDBG administration.
Any other questions?
Why is it so different, 20% and 5%?
It's HUD. I can't defend them in this.
Don't expect logic.
Okay, thank you. There's no further action required, correct?
Yes.
Is there a
Two
motion? Oh, sorry.
motions, one for housing and one for council.
I'll move 1A for council.
Second.
Okay, can we have a roll call for council?
Council members: Menuchyan,
Yes.
Najarian, Montero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes.
No, move 1B.
The housing.
1B for the housing.
Second. Roll call.
Authority members: Friedman,
Yes.
Menuchyan,
Yes.
Mincy,
Yes.
Najarian, Barazian,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Chair Quintero.
Yes.
You want to move? We adjourn for the council?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, council is adjourned.
Move adjournment for housing.
Second.
Housing Authority is adjourned.
Okay, we're going to go next to the special meeting of the City Council, followed by the joint meeting of Glendale City Council and Redevelopment